Welcome to Meanwhile at the Museum, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes with the people, stories, and shenanigans that make Cincinnati Museum Center what it is. I'm Cody Hefner, and I'm joined today by Graham Turner.
Hi.
Hi, Graham. We just went over this, so let's test my knowledge. Assistant Manager of Guest Engagement.
Museum engagement. So I'm part of the...
But you're engaging guests.
I am engaging
in the
guests.
museums.
It used to be...
So we're both right.
Helping with, it used to be coordinator of museum experience, but within the past couple of years, we've kind of restructured a little bit, had all of the front-facing team collaborate a lot more with call center, membership, the kiosk and ticket takers, and those that are educating and having fun with all of the guests on the floor. And so I am in museum engagement. The kiosk is guest experience. Call center is guest services. And then all of us are guest engagement. So you are technically correct, which is the best kind of correct.
I'll take technical. Why not? How long have you been here?
That is always the weirdest question for me because
That's the weirdest question, and
so,
we're just getting started, so...
It's one of the more difficult questions for me to answer to anyone that asks it because I've been here since I was 13. I was part of the youth program, but...
Yeah. I remember. So there was a story in the newspaper about a child who kind of absconded away into the cave at a young age. That's you? You walked out. You have a beard. You look like maybe you Rip Van Winkled yourself.
I did go off to join the circus when I was 6 years old. We can loop back around to that, though.
We have to.
Yeah, but from when I was 13 to 18, I was a youth volunteer. Amazing program if you have teenagers in the area that are wanting to kind of build up a lot of experience in the workforce, as well as get a lot more knowledge, social experience with other people, with people of the public in a really healthy environment, as well as get some schoolwork help get scholarships, learn about colleges, all of that stuff. Cincinnati Museum Center youth programs is by far one of the best things that has ever happened to me, and as far as I know, for a lot of people.
One of the things you mentioned, it is working directly with museum professionals, but also directly with the public.
Correct.
So Mitch and I, we both cut our teeth on that in the restaurant industry. That's where Mitch earned the nickname Money Mitch. But it is so important to have that opportunity to speak with guests and speak with other people. For high school kids, you're not always getting that experience in talking to people of multiple age ranges who aren't your teacher or something like that. So I think it's a really awesome way for them to build that social intelligence a little bit in that way.
Yeah.
And you were in the program for 5 years?
I was in the program for 5 years, so 13 until I was 18. Then I went off to college. I decided to go into biology because what I had realized that I wanted to do was be an informal educator. So I didn't exactly want to go into teaching because there was a little too much structure within that, and I tried my hands out with some electives of education, but in the long run I realized that traditional teaching was not for me, and I actually was continuing down the path that I wanted to, because while I was in youth programs, I learned how to handle animals, take care of them, and that was some of my best experiences while I was interacting with the public. And so get a biology degree, hey, that opens up zoo, aquarium, science museum, children's museum, parks, and that was then one of those things that opened up the door for a lot of different things that I could possibly do. And the hope was to return in some capacity. And so my final semester of college, I interned for zoology. This was still while the building was like shut down, going through renovations. This was actually during the period when even children's was, and even the
Under,
lobby was shut down.
yeah, under restoration.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I bounced back and forth between Geyer, which zoology at Geyer. So that was helping to tag and catalog a lot of animals in the collection. I was mainly working with the with wet storage. So that is the room full of things in jars.
This is in our Geyer Collections facility, which is where a lot of our collections are maintained and preserved.
Wet storage is effectively like
What collections?
yeah. So effectively, you don't want genetic material to degrade. You don't want like the actual.
You don't want the tissues and stuff
You don't want
decompose and.
Yeah, and that always happens when it's bacteria eating away at it, and so you stuff it in alcohol and. It used to be formaldehyde, but like now it's basically just ethanol. But like you stick them in those jars, you tag them up with species name, location, date that it was collected, and then you note it in. When I was doing it, it was still in a big book. There was like 5 of these big books that just had all of these collection numbers, number of the specific organisms in these jars. And then me and my friend Sean, who is volunteering there at the same time I was interning, he actually ended up being one of my groomsmen. But we would sit down, we'd grab the forceps, pull them out, tie a little tag on them, pass it over. He'd write them in the book, and then we'd swap out all of the old alcohol, put new alcohol in, put them in the jar, and make sure that it actually starts getting inventoried properly.
This room is, for me, absolute nightmare fuel.
Oh, yeah.
It is thousands of jars. These aren't mason jars, but these are clear glass jars with way too many snakes in them,
yes,
for starters. But there are turtles, bats. Snakes is enough. This room, the collection area for this, is front-loaded with the snakes as almost a natural security system, because I was in there with our curator of zoology, Heather Farrington, and I thought, this is such a cool place. I'm so excited to be in here. This is cool. It's kind of creepy, but all right. And I took 2 steps in and I said, Heather, I am freaking out right now. She goes, do you want to see my favorite one? And I said, sure. She goes, well, it's all the way here in the back. I'm like, great. It is terrifying. So
is it the
yes,
bat? Is the bat? It's the bat.
I would love for everyone to see Graham mimicking the position of this bat.
It's like a little gargoyle,
jar.
Basically, but like because it's a fruit bat from the Philippines, it's big.
It's huge.
It's big and in a jar. And the thing about it is, most times you don't store mammals in jars because, in general, there's no need to. Because the reason why herps get stored in jars, herps being amphibians and reptiles, those get stored in jars is because like they have scales and things like that, and it's very, very hard to remove all of their internal organs to, stuff them to create an actual study skin because
how do you remove a snake's internal organs? Do you roll it up like a tube of toothpaste from the back end and
again, that's why you stick them in the jar, because that's too much work. However, you do that with birds and mammals. I have actually prepped a study skin of a red-shouldered hawk, and basically you need to cut it open, and you basically are peeling off the skin using cornmeal. And
cornmeal.
Cornmeal gives it a little bit more friction to basically peel it off of the muscles. But like, yeah, you are basically like pulling them away. You get like all of the meaty parts out because that's the stuff that the bacteria are going to want to eat. So that's kind of the difference between doing a study skin slash like mounting, like any taxidermy you're doing that too, but then you're actually putting armature in them. But that you would probably want Dave might.
Yeah.
If you're wanting anything for taxidermy, Dave might would be the one that you would want to talk to. And effectively prepping the study skin is like you're just removing it all and making sure that you cut it off at like just the very end part of the bone. That like for these birds, their feathers actually connect to tendons that are right against the bone, so you also have to like pull the feather off from the bone from inside, which is a really weird thing to think about, that like some of those main flight feathers are like actually attached. That's why you don't pluck bird feathers unless they're like the nice downy ones. And then you basically mount it up, put a stick inside, make it a little bit rigid, and then stuff it with a little bit of cotton so that it has a little bit more structure to it, so that the skins don't just fall apart.
Yeah.
But like it's still not full on taxidermy. You're not trying to pose it, you're not trying to do anything like that. The reason for these study skins is for actual research data. So that's also why you tag them. You get location, how they died, what the possible like age of it was, when it was collected, and then you can have researchers come in and look at the study skin, see what kind of markings there are, see like what patterns of like of coloration there are. You have the ability to take genetic samples from this study skin. And in general, that's kind of how you're prepping them. Vastly different than like doing it for taxidermy for just display purposes.
Mounting
It
them.
also means that you can kind of just have all the like have them all in like a nice default position and just put it in a drawer. So yeah.
You said something that I think was important, how they died, because these are not birds that we're going out and we're not hunting birds to add to the collection. These are mostly animals that have died of natural causes, that are, window strikes or something like that. Or if there are animals and specimens in the zoology collection that are essentially roadkill, that were hit by cars and recovered, right?
This is correct. There nothing is gone out, hunted, and killed. And we do not endorse doing that for any reason.
Because that's what Audubon did. John James Audubon,
Yes, yeah.
essentially, Birds of America, the birds that he painted, he was able to paint them in that way because he hunted them, and so he could roll it around, stretch a wing out, do things like that. But he also documented how they tasted because he would eat these birds. And there's a really fun story. John Ruthven, who was kind of a 20th century Audubon, painted very much in the same style, very renowned wildlife painter and local to Cincinnati and friend of the Cincinnati Museum Center.
Ruthven Gallery.
We have a Ruthven. We not only have a Ruthven temporary gallery, but we have the John A. and Judy Ruthven Get Into Nature Gallery, which is a permanent exhibit.
And there are plenty of study skins in the Get Into Nature Gallery. So if you want to actually see what a nice study skin looks like, pull open some of the drawers along the exhibit, because that's where the actual collection specimens are.
Which is very cool. It's a way to bring back of the house or the collection storage into the exhibit and onto the museum floor that a lot of people don't get to see. But John Ruthven was walking to a meeting downtown once, and a bird fell dead at his feet. It hit a window and it had just fallen right in front of him. And he looked at it and he goes, "Oh, that's one of the birds that Audubon said tasted really good." So he put it in his suit pocket and goes into this meeting. And he's in this meeting, and the entire time he's in this meeting, he's just sitting there counting down. All right, if this meeting wraps up in the next hour, I can still go eat this thing.
Yeah, because you got to make sure that it's food safe.
And then so he goes, all right, well, if we're out of here in the next 15 minutes, I can still go eat this thing. Then he goes, looks at his watch and goes, well, now it's gone. And so he just has to sit through the rest of this meeting with this dead bird in his pocket. And as he stands up to leave, he just reaches in his pocket, drops it in the trash can, and walks out the door.
Honestly, sounds about right. I wonder if we can get any of that going for any of our food science camps.
You want to do this in the Create Culinary Studio? Let's taste birds.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It might be a little bit gamey, but like I don't know. There's a lot of
bring in your roadkill. Let's cook it up.
Yeah, sure. Why not? It goes back to sustainability, which is a big thing for me.
Okay, well, don't invite me over for dinner because.
Don't worry, I'm not the I'm not the cook in the family.
Tell me your circus story.
Okay.
So when you were 6, you ran away to the circus. Like you had a stick and bindle. You jumped on a circus train and you bid your family goodbye.
Not exactly. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 6 years old, less than a month after my 6th birthday. That summer, my parents were looking into summer camps that I could do, so that, I could go be a normal kid. And aside from specifically diabetes camp, where all of the instructors are like, no, I need to help you take care of your diabetes. I need to make sure that you're alive. There aren't a whole lot of people that will try to care for a kid like that. And my older brother, he's about a year and a half older than me, was already doing some circus camp because one of our neighbors living nearby was doing it. Now, this circus camp still exists. It's My Nose Turns Red Youth Circus. And they do a lot of like after school camp and some like summer camps and things like that. But I don't know the exact structure nowadays. But if you are wanting to send your kid off to the circus, it is still a possibility here in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. Again, that's My Nose Turns Red Youth Circus, because that was actually one of the big lead-ins to me being in youth programs, because I ran away to the circus effectively, and at the end of every like camp session, we did a performance. We showed off all the skills that we'd learned, any skits that we were learning. So effectively, like, I was a pre-theater kid. Like, I didn't do theater in high school, but I did do circus when I was in elementary school.
What was your specialty? What were you really good at?
The Diablo. So that is, other people call it like the Chinese yo-yo. It's basically 2 sticks connected by a string and 2 cups connected by an axle that go onto that string. Okay. And you keep that rotating with the friction of the string, and you basically do yo-yo tricks with it, kind of, except it's not tied to the string. I got to the point where I could kind of do 2 on one string, but like I wasn't very good at it. However, I do actually keep a Diablo on hand at the museum for whenever the need arises. Yes.
Break in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Grab the Diablo.
Exactly. I wasn't great at juggling, but I can juggle. The kids down in Children's using the Energy Zone balls, they love it. I could unicycle, walk on stilts, jump rope on stilts, jump rope while on top of a like giant plastic ball kind of weighted down by sand. They called it the Globe of Death. Did that.
This is like a 4-foot ball that you climb up and walk on? Like,
it's
so more like
closer to like
an exercise ball?
Bigger than exercise ball. It's probably about like 3 feet in diameter. Like 3.5 feet. But like, it is hard plastic. Very difficult to like actually pick up. You do actually have to roll it, but like, yeah, you could do some damage with that if it fell.
I bet I bet the old timey lumberjacks who did the log rolling
Mm,
would be great at it.
it's
Why aren't
definitely an awkward
why
grab.
aren't more lumberjacks in the circus? They could walk on that. They could juggle chainsaws. They've already got them
They're
handy.
already too worn out. They got a nice manual labor job. They're just wanting to relax for the rest of their day.
I mean, nothing says relaxing like juggling chainsaws.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're right.
Did you have like a circus name? Like, did you have a?
No,
Did you name
we
your
did
circus
not.
act?
We did not. We were all in elementary school or like early teenagers. So like trying to add in a lot of that like showmanship early is very difficult as a skill to try and teach someone. Like you basically get your pick. Hey, do you want the massive showmanship piece or do you want the technical skills while having a hint of that thing, and we build up to it over time? Because at that point you have a discrepancy between like your long time circus camp goers and the early ones.
But did they pick like ringmasters?
I was
Or
actually the MC for multiple years in a row.
were you?
Yes. Yeah. I would go up on stage at the Aronoff on my bouncy stilts, go up to the microphone, announce things, go off stage, and I did that for like the last from when I was like 11 to 14. So there was a little overlap of my time in youth programs and my time in circus camp. However, once I started dedicating a lot more time to CMC, I started spending a lot less time wanting to do that. And I was a youth in the Children's Museum. I got to play, and my parents didn't need to pay someone for me to be there. Just got to help out my community.
Before we transition back to the museum, who would win in a stilt race? You or Bill? You or Bill Stringer?
I mean, he has longer legs, so just him on that.
You think that gives him the edge?
I think that stride length means so much. However, if I just go with bigger stilts, I think I'd win.
Just yeah, because stilts you can
Yeah, you
can
just
build your
adjust
own
the
stride
size.
length.
Yeah. I think it's honestly relatively close. Like I don't think there's a good way to call that.
All right, I'm gonna,
Get back to me in like a year after I've started biking again.
I'll check our insurance policy and see if we can set this up. Explain your role here at the museum center, and what do you kind of do from a day to day and from a big picture perspective as well?
I'm gonna loop back just briefly because we got like childhood, teenage years, went off to college, then I came back, and I just kind of want to follow that little through
Sure.
line to right now because it kind of guides a lot of what I do now. Because after I was in zoology at Geyer, interning there, I got a position part-time here with featured exhibits. I worked chocolate, guitar, and Egypt, and those were all very fun, but I do legitimately remember sometimes being in guitar, like longingly looking back at the Children's Museum, and in less than a year, I transitioned over to museum experience, now museum engagement, as a full-time specialist, and then less than a year after that moved up to coordinator of museum experience. Now my time as coordinator during that period of time, this was pre-COVID, so during that period I helped build a lot of trainings for our staff, adult volunteers and youth volunteers. I helped write programs, and I was actually in charge of overseeing the floor twice a week. And then COVID happened. Everything kind of got scaled back. We had to figure out who's running the floor, what are we doing on the floor, and effectively the coordinator position was more often during that times another person on the floor at all times to just interact with guests because we had the necessity to downsize at that point, unfortunately. Now, a fair number of people that were laid off during that period of time have come back, and it's wonderful to have them. But for that first like year, it was really, really rough trying to just get through. And so I was one of the main front facing staff in the Natural History Museum and the History Museum because children's still hadn't been open yet. Built up those skills again, learned a lot of the new gallery spaces in even greater detail. Then, once we started finally ramping back up again, then I was able to take on a lot more responsibilities again. Was able to start training the youth again, training adult volunteers, helping the staff and cover on the floor. And then 2 years ago, there was another structural shakeup because we split museum experience into the programs team and museum engagement and included featured exhibits into that. That is now what museum engagement is. And with that, a lot of job duties changed, but a lot of them are still reflective of what I was doing before. I was no longer writing programs because that's dedicated to the programs team. However, I do still admit that I really, really enjoy writing programs, especially because they're very similar to like writing tabletop games, which I also do as a hobby. And so that's been 2 years now. And what we have now been learning under this new structure is we kind of need to learn how to fill the role of making sure that everyone on the floor is happy. All of our specialists are well trained, understand that we are there for them, help organize committee meetings for gathering new ideas for programs alongside the program team, doing a lot more DEAI work, and utilizing our specialists for their actual specialties, collaborating with other departments. And the thing that I have been doing specifically a lot recently has been connecting with our community partners, Easter Seals Redwood. So they are a group that works with job readiness for individuals with special needs. So I've been working with them for more than half a year now. They came to CMC last May, so May of 2023. And they came in with, we don't know what tasks need help doing. And everyone has tasks. Everyone is like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? But, like, in essence, how do you teach someone outside of this building how to do something within this building? Do you think that if I told you, hey, can you go shut down the museum at the end of the day, Cody? Like, can you go do that for me?
Well, right, yeah. So it's there is that familiarity with the
Yeah.
building and the process. Yeah, yeah.
So you have Easter Seals. They have a very small staffing team with about 20 individuals that they are overseeing. And so you are trying to train the trainers on how to do things, but then also make it in a way that can be effectively passed on to those individuals as well. And so one of the big things has been cleaning procedures within this building because it's separated over about 5 different departments / organizations. So we have First Screen, which is our housekeeping team. They're wonderful people. We have museum engagement, which we do all of the day-to-day. We make sure that all of the props that go in children's mouths every single day get washed at the end of the day, make sure that everything's reset properly. We have exhibits maintenance, which makes sure that if anything actually is broken or starting to look a little bit disheveled, they come in, they repair it, and make sure that even if it's not perfect in that situation, they start coming up with a plan to make sure that it can be done easier. a lot of ball jams happen, and that was a back and forth between museum engagement and exhibits. They got us a long like snake that just has a huge brush on it to like push broken balls through the tube so that we can
Just
grab and toss it.
you're all amateur plumbers
Yeah,
in the
pretty
energy
much.
zone. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have the curators who are offsite at Geyer, and depending on what their schedule is looking like, they come in, they make sure to have all of our artifacts and all of our collections objects looking really pristine, well taken care of, make sure that the public is not doing anything that they shouldn't be to them. And then we've now introduced Easter Seals Redwood. And so trying to collaborate with multiple organizations and departments to have something all work together when we just came from a period of COVID when all of those processes had changed and we couldn't go back to the old method because after we were in COVID, we realized, hey, we weren't doing enough back then, but we don't want to be doing as much as what we were doing every single day. Where's the middle ground? My job currently has been finding the middle ground. Now, that's not going to be my job forever. Like, that is my job title of assistant manager of museum engagement is finding the problems within our team and helping to fix them and move things forward. Again, that's been training, documentation. We have some new gallery guides that are basically like your nice primer if you're a volunteer or new staff coming in. We're updating those a lot to make sure that they are much more new user friendly, and along with some of the DEAI work, diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion, making sure that that also gets passed off to another team and committee to make sure that those also get translated into other languages as well, and making sure that there's inventory systems, keep up with like training our youth volunteers. Yes, I get to work with them a lot, and it is one of my favorite things to do to give back to the program. But effectively, I am someone who tries to find solutions and execute them if my immediate supervisors don't have the capacity to do so.
In all of your years here, do you have a particular moment, a particular day that stands out to you?
Yes. The 2023 Youth Banquet. So, effectively, at the start of every summer, the Youth Banquet is a time to honor all of the seniors that are graduating from the program and inviting in all of the new youth applicants just after they've done all their orientations and just before their shadowing period to actually get to work on the floor, be with the public, start the process of figuring out which museum that they want to pick for their next 2 to 5 years, depending on their age. And the reason why 2023 was so special to me was because it was also my graduation for my master's program. I also didn't know that this was happening. This was planned around without me knowing. Like I had mentioned that I was MC for Circus Camp, I was being the MC for a lot of the youth awards, some of their leadership awards, Rising Star awards, to like recognize how amazing their growth is. And it is amazing to see them grow here. But then after I was giving out all of those awards, by the way, wearing my uniform from when I was 13, by the way. So the old denim uniform.
The denim shirt.
Mm-hmm. Wearing that.
It's not Champere. It's straight up denim.
Yeah. A light blue denim with a bright yellow old Union Terminal logo and like goggles on my head because I wore that like an anime character for probably from when I was 16 to like 19 all the time. Now I have a nice hat, courtesy of our wonderful designing people on marketing. Has a nice CMC logo on it. It makes me very recognizable. But the reason why it is so special to me was I did my master's program, achieving both a master's in biology and teaching by doing most of my projects and work on the floor here in this building. And I didn't go to my actual ceremony at Miami because this was Project Dragonfly. You may have already heard of it from Mary, where it's done through the zoo, accredited by Miami University. And I got all of my documentation, I got my diploma, and I didn't want to do the ceremony. And I was like, this actually might be a really, really good. I would enjoy being able to do it at the banquet. Like, it would be fun, but it's a little too late for that. And it happened. Like, some wonderful people that I'm so close to here at CMC made it happen, including our CLO, Whitney Owens, who actually has youth in the program as well. But she even helped make sure that was all organized. And I got to go up, shake the hands of people that I've known here at Cincinnati Museum Center since I was 13, 14, give a nice acceptance speech. And it just so happened that the time when I got that was 15 years after I started youth programs, 10 years after I left, and 5 years since I had come back to the museum center. And it's my favorite memory because it shows how much this place means to me, and really do just want to keep making this place better and better. And that's why I'm actually very happy with what my job is currently, because I get to run around, go talk to other departments, figure out exactly what needs to be figured out, like what gaps are missing, how can we make the experience of people better here, how can we educate while making sure that it's fun, how can we ignite the spark of hundreds of thousands of people and have them continue to grow in a way that they want to explore their own curiosity, and how can we help cultivate that at every age level, whether it be a child that comes here to the children's museum, to their parent that is learning something that they didn't really have the courage to ask because they didn't know. And asking questions as an adult is hard, but it's something that's wonderful to see that an entire family can learn here. Having some of those kids go to camps, make friends, having some of those campers go into youth programs, seeing them grow from that, figuring out what they want to do with the rest of their life, help them build the foundation to do that, whether it be skills, information, connections. And I realized that I wanted to keep being a part of that.
Yeah, it's more than just a visit. It's more than making sure that people have a really wonderful visit. It is building that relationship, and continuing that, over time, and letting that evolve in different ways. But despite all the passion you just shared for that, if you could trade roles with someone for a day, who would it be?
So, there are a few people just for various different reasons. One, Erin McCandless, she's director of the programs team. So I said that I missed getting to write my programs. I'd like to be in that situation, getting to actually make design, oversee other people to make sure that we can continue to give out some of the best quality programming interactions that we can, especially because programming was basically one of my best ways to interact with other people, because it gave something for everyone to focus on and talk around to still impart information, but not make it feel like it was a barrier of you're someone new that I don't know. Let me put a lot of effort into trying to make that connection. Programs are a wonderful conduit for learning and for connections. So I'd like to be in her position to just help see where she's at with honestly a lot of the like different changing things, because she's done an amazing job helping to push the create culinary lab. Another person would be pretty much anyone in exhibits fabrication, because I would just love to be able to be down there.
Everyone loves the exhibits
it's
team.
it's so good. I really
Rightfully so.
yeah, they're wonderful people. I've actually worked with Dave Might on the side for 3D printing some resin models for him to utilize. It was centipede and a millipede so far, and he's sent me another file that he might be working on as like a personal commission for a beetle. So that'll be cool. I like working with all of them, and one that probably no one would probably want to take the job of, but I honestly would love to see, be a part of, and after you've heard just my genuine enthusiasm for, I would want to be in Elizabeth Pierce's job. I would love to actually be the CEO to help guide everyone here, make sure that I can tell all of our partners, donors, contributors just how amazing this place is, as well as telling them like where their money is actually going, because when you get down into the nitty-gritty of it, this place runs on wonderful people supporting us, whether it be through admissions or donations or grants, making sure that we have the best people to talk to, the best people for the job internally, which you've been doing an amazing job showing off all of the amazing work that they've been doing with this podcast. So thank you for that.
I just make sure Mitch does it. Mitch makes sure the mic is lined up, and I just let people go.
I mean, yeah, you've been letting me go for a good long while. I can definitely keep going, but I would love to see what everything is in the big picture, because one thing that I've realized with trying to collaborate with the multiple different departments and organizations is how important communication is, how important creating systems for people to function together is. And I gotta say, I've been doing a pretty solid job with actually building a lot of systems, talking to people, building systems, and making sure that it all runs smoothly, along with understanding the data. So I will never say that EP Elizabeth Pierce could be replaced. She is wonderful at what she does, but I would love to be able to honestly see what she does and honestly learn from her.
We all try to.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, Graham, you have such a passion for the museum, and I think that's clear. I mean, you've been involved from such an early age, which is just incredible. And I think it's a really wonderful trajectory and just story that you have here. So thanks for joining us, and thanks everyone for listening to Meanwhile at the Museum. Remember, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe. But more importantly, come see for yourself. Visit cincymuseum.org to see the latest reasons to visit. If you have any questions, comments, or just want to tell us how much you love the show, send us an email at meanwhile@cincymuseum.org. Thanks for listening.